first, let's start with the fact that this was a rain-shortened event. They completed 185 of a schedule, 260 laps, so just short of 300 miles, what was supposed to be a 400-mile race. You've been there. You got all that crew chief experience. What are these races like for a crew chief? We had Rudy Fugle, the crew chief for William Byron, say that he just guessed badly on when the rain was going to arrive. I think he made a joke about how his wife is an earth sciences teacher and she knows like this sort of scientific stuff. And, he's an engineer, but he's just guessing. As a crew chief, are these races are they a challenge? Do you sort of hate the uncertainty? Do you just go with it and try to get through it? What's it like to have all this sort of riding on your pit calls and not knowing when the race is going to end?
Well, so I loved it. So you know me, I'm a math guy. So if you love math, the more variables, the better, right? I only really need one constant, right? The more variables, the harder the equation is to figure out, and that's what this race is. And there's already a ton of variables in NASCAR racing, but then when the finish line is also a variable, that becomes really, really tough, right? Because try planning a road trip with your family and you don't even know where you're going. Well, it's pretty hard to decide where you're going to stop for lunch and gas if you don't know where, are we driving 2 hours? Are we driving 6 hours? How comfortable are you? And that's kind of what the crew chiefs are doing. But let's not make it sound like I appreciate Rudy saying he guessed wrong. And he perhaps did. But I can tell you that if it's still a guess, which it is, but if it's an uneducated guess, shame on you. And I don't think it is for Rudy. That's not what I'm saying. But for any of these teams, we saw weather a week ago at Chicago as far as, hey, when do we put dries on? Is more rain coming? What are we doing right here? Now we've seen a rain-shortened race. NASCAR is moving into the world of global motorsports where it's not as simple as, we have a few drops, we're done, right? We now run rain tires at road courses. We now run rain tires at short tracks. We now have these lightning holds, which have nothing to do with rain, which is a whole different radar system. So if you are one of these multi-million-dollar race teams and you aren't specializing in someone is your meteorologist, whether that's marine radar you bring on site instead of using someone provided, right? If you go out on a boat in the middle of the ocean, you're not using AccuWeather. You're using your own radar. So I think the fans at home should know that we talk about war rooms and we think it's travel and fuel and tires and temperature and speed. Well, if one of those people in your war room isn't weather, shame on you. I don't even know how many, I forgot. 15 trophies, 10 trophies as a crew chief. And, Jeff Gordon and I won a Pocono in the weather, right? There's no, in golf, they say there's no pictures on the scorecard. Well, in racing, there's no pictures on the trophy that tell you how you did it. You won it. You have the trophy, fill the case. So I think that's interesting. What is it like? It's anxiety filled. It's so now I do think Atlanta makes it different because it's worse at a place like this week at New Hampshire. Because it's going to be clear in New Hampshire what 3 or 4 cars should win this race. So if you mess that up, it's glaring obvious that you've messed something up. Whereas Atlanta, I don't know, what was there, 25 cars that could have won that race? So it's a different, it's a little bit more of a freewheel. Hey man, I just need to kind of guess right to be towards the front. So Rudy Fugle, he said he guessed wrong, but when I look at the strategy, he didn't guess as wrong as others. There was 3 big groups. There was one car, Micah McDowell, on the lap 95 yellow. There was a whole nother group at the lap 125 pit stop and a whole nother group at the lap 160 pit stop. He was in that lap 125 group. So I would actually argue he guessed right. He was with the masses. He was with the majority. I thought his weather prediction was pretty good. He could tell his wife that he is paying attention to Sunday dinner conversations, that he did know the rain was coming at about that same time.
That's right. And to your point, you did that as well as a crew chief. Like you said, you had the Pocono win. I believe, wasn't there a Darlington win where the rain came when Gordon's engine was blowing up and you guys were in the lead?
Well, that was the Sunday after the rain. That rain, there was no predicting. It was sit around and let's race on Mother's Day. But you are right. I get back to my point. It's life.
Yeah.
I hate to be like that, but it will affect how many races this year. Not as many as pit stops, which affect every race, but a lot. There'll be more rain races than there will be road course races. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If someone's bad at the road courses, we'd be like, you need to put some more effort into your road course program. Well, maybe someone needs to put some more effort into their rain prediction software. Now, look, it's an unexact science. If it was an exact science, there'd be a lot of people out of work, right? But it's not that easy. But that doesn't mean you still shouldn't put effort into it.
No, absolutely not. And I think I saw a stat from frontstretch.com that this was the first time in a season when we've had back-to-back races of shortened by rain. Chicago last week, Atlanta this week. It's the first time since 2003. But even though it's the first time in 20 years that you have that scenario of back-to-back shortened races, to your point, it doesn't mean that races aren't impacted by rain if they're not shortened. And so what you're saying there is interesting about the war rooms. We know that teams are limited in the terms of the number of people that they can bring to the track each week on those crew rosters, but there is somebody back in Charlotte. There is somebody in that room for Hendrick, Stewart Haas, Penske, Gibbs, who that's their job, is just to monitor whatever radar that they have. Huh?
Well, and we talk crew rosters, but that's active crew in the garage area and on the pit box.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this, but I'm waiting for the team to bring their war room on location, not in the NASCAR controlled area. So, you go to the track as much or more than I do to all of these facilities. So let's talk racing in general. You go to NASCAR, you have the Cup Garage. Then you also have the motorhome lot, which is more of a residential areas where their families stay. That's different. But then there's always this ancillary lot. It usually has the Chevrolet trailer, usually has the Toyota trailer, the Ford trailer, has the manufacturing help. Sometimes you'll see X-Track in there, which is one of the suppliers. Sometimes you'll see the SRI trailer in there. So it's this, I call it ancillary. They are not race teams. They're not NASCAR, but they are very important people that are required for the event to happen. Well, when I go to IndyCar or IMSA, in the paddock that is in a garage area, there are these huge hospitality tents, whether it's for marketing or activation or even a race team. When is Hendrick Motorsports going to have a area, front half, in the midway or on the backstretch, and front half is I'm going to entertain my guests? We see that. When is the back half of that area going to be the executive offices and the war room? Maybe it's easier to connect back to the shop. That's why they do it. And I think that's real. And it may not even replace that. But is a weatherman better to be on location? Because the radar is one thing, but look, I love technology, but like I tell my kids, no, stop looking at your screen. Just raise your head, look out the window. Like there's a window right there. This big glass thing, it tells you more than, So to your point, do you bring is there a weather guy there? Could somebody provide a weather service? Now, I wouldn't subscribe to that because I don't want the same service you're getting if I'm racing against you. Yeah. Right. I want this and this isn't just the thing for the teams. Remember NASCAR. Let's go back to Daytona. They go down into turn one in the downpour and they wreck, I don't know how many cars. And NASCAR kind of rightfully stepped up and said, we're going to have to do something different because that didn't work. They tried some rain sensors. A friend of mine owns a very large greenhouse, perhaps one of the biggest in the world, at least on the East Coast. And he has sensors acres and acres away because when you have a million mums and the doors open and the thunder shower starts, you got to get the roofs closed so you don't ruin your crop. So it has these fancy sensors all over the greenhouse. NASCAR tried something like that, but it wasn't quite sensitive enough. I talked to Mike Houghton. How'd you do it years ago? And Mike said, I just sent an official in a golf cart or a truck out. If the storm was coming to turn 3, I would just send a guy a mile outside turn 3 at Daytona, and we laugh at those kind of rudimentary systems. But guess what? They're really good. Because now you have a guy like a mile out there going, hey, yep, I got a little rain on the windshield. So NASCAR's had to adapt as well. And I think that's what we saw at the end of the race that I know the fans don't love. And I didn't love that we rode around that far under yellow, but I loved that I had confidence NASCAR knew it was 2 in question to go green. That is a very tough balance. I would have preferred if we couldn't. Well, I don't know what I prefer, to be honest. And I had this mental. You're seeing the same mental disaster right now.
Tug of war.
Well, so here's the problem. If the racetrack and or weather is not in an area that is allowing green flag racing, the question then becomes, should we or should we not ride around under yellow? So everybody wants us to be a line in the sand between rain, red flag, or green flag. Mm-hmm. And that's how it was. But now with this weather education, now there's a third choice. Now there's hey, guess what? We can't be racing. It's raining too hard. So we're now under caution. But hey, it's not raining hard enough to stop the cars. So we're just going to ride around under yellow. And we're going to do it with pit road closed. I don't know where I am on this. Jeff Burton was a big fan of it. He said it on the broadcast. In this instance, I felt like a fan of it because the looming weather was race ending. It was huge. I also feel like this is a little bit new of a nuance, and I don't feel like it's discussed. What I would like from NASCAR is this week communicate to the teams how this is going to be handled. You and I talk about this all the time. I don't care, and I know the fans are going to be mad at this. I don't care if they like it or don't like it. All I care about is that NASCAR is consistent. If today we rode around with pit road closed, then at New Hampshire, are we going to ride with round around with pit road closed? It's the consistency that I struggle with. And that's why I questioned Jeff's, enjoying this, because I think there's other races where they would have opened pit road. And that's really gets to me the crux. I think it does depend on the rain. If it was a pop-up thunder shower, and I said this on the broadcast, I disagree. Open pit road. Because I think we're racing on the other side of the rain. So no. No, you want to be a crew chief? Congratulations, you're a crew chief. Decide what you want to do.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Parker Kligerman. For more access like this from Pit Road, be sure to click and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel.